The dog sat there every morning, right at the break of dawn, not moving, not barking, just staring at the old wooden gate at the edge of the village. One morning, a 6-year-old girl finally walked up to him, and she noticed something tied around his collar, a silver chain, and hanging from it, a key that matched the lock on her missing sister's diary. Welcome to Saved by Tales. Before we begin this powerful story of quiet loyalty and long-hidden secrets, tell me in the comments, if you found a key with no explanation, what would you hope it unlocked? And if you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button, like and share. Every morning at exactly 6 a.m., the village bell chimed once, just one deep hollow note. It was meant to mark the beginning of the day, the time when bakery ovens were lit and shutters opened. But for Clara, it meant something else. It meant the dog would be there, waiting, at the same spot, at the edge of the village, beside the old wooden gate. Clara was 6 years old, with short curly dark hair, and a habit of waking early. Her grandmother always said she was an old soul, because she liked quiet things. But even quiet girls could notice things other people missed, like a German shepherd sitting by the gate. Every morning, tail wrapped neatly around his paws, ears perked, eyes steady. At first, Clara only watched from her window. Her house sat on the hill just above the path, giving her a perfect view of the gate and the dog. She'd press her forehead against the cold glass and count 1, 2, 3, until the bell rang, and the dog stood up, walking away slowly down the same path each time. But he always returned the next morning. One chilly autumn day, Clara couldn't stand it anymore. She slipped on her boots, wrapped her red scarf twice around her neck, and stepped outside. The sky was still pale and soft with early light. Her breath floated in little clouds as she walked down the hill, heart thudding louder than it should have. The closer she got, the clearer he became. Big, dark gray fur streaked with black, a jagged scar along his left shoulder, just like her sister's old drawing. Her sister, Mira, gone for over a year now. No one talked about it much anymore, but Clara remembered. And somehow, she thought maybe the dog did too. She stopped a few steps away. The dog didn't move, didn't bark, didn't growl. He just amber eyes calm and steady, like he'd been waiting for this moment all along. That's when Clara saw it. Around his neck, tied to his collar, with a thin piece of leather, a silver chain, and hanging from it, a key. Small, old, worn around the edges, but unmistakably real. Clara's breath caught. Her fingers curled around her scarf. She'd seen that key before, not this one exactly, but the same shape, the same size. Her sister's diary had a lock just like it. A diary no one could open since Mira disappeared. Slowly Clara knelt down. Her voice shook when she spoke. "Where did you get that?" The dog tilted his head slightly. The key shifted, catching the morning light. Clara reached out. Her fingers brushed the cool metal, trembling, and the dog didn't pull away. When she stood again, key in hand, the bell rang once overhead. The dog stood too, turned, and walked away down the path, as if his job was finished. That evening, Clara sat on the floor of her bedroom, with the key in her lap and the locked diary resting in front of her. Her grandmother knocked once, peeking inside. "Sweetheart, what are you up to?" Clara's voice came out smaller than she meant it to. "Just remembering." Her grandmother's face softened. She stepped inside, kneeling beside Clara, and smoothing her hair back. Some things deserve to be remembered. Clara nodded slowly. Her fingers pressed the key into the lock. It clicked. Inside the diary, there wasn't much, just one folded piece of paper. Clara opened it with shaking hands. On it was a single sentence, written in her sister's careful looping handwriting. "If you find this, follow the dog." The next morning, Clara stood by the old wooden gate before the village bell rang. Her red scarf fluttered gently in the wind. The dog was already there, sitting in his usual spot, amber eyes watching her like he knew she would come. Clara clutched the silver key in her pocket, her heart steady. She wasn't afraid this time, she was ready. When the bell chimed once, the dog stood, but instead of turning back toward the village, he stepped forward, through the gate that had always been locked, that no one used anymore. Except today, it creaked open easily, like it had just been waiting for someone small enough to push it. Clara followed. Beyond the gate was a narrow dirt path winding between tall trees. The ground was covered in golden leaves, rustling softly beneath her boots. The dog padded ahead, never running too far, always glancing back to make sure she was still there. Clara's breath misted in the cool morning air. She kept her hand wrapped tightly around the key in her pocket, and in her mind, she repeated her sister's words. "Follow the dog." The path curved gently, following the edge of a shallow stream. Every few steps Clara noticed things. A blue ribbon caught in a bush, a carved heart on a tree trunk, little signs, like a trail left just for her. After a while, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a wooden cabin, small, weathered, but not broken. The kind of place someone could live quietly without being found. The dog stopped in front of the door. His tail swept once across the ground, waiting. Clara stepped forward slowly. Her hand trembled as she pressed her palm against the wood. It was warm, real. She knocked once. The sound echoed softly through the clearing. No answer. But when she tried the handle, the door creaked open. Inside, it smelled like cedar and old paper. There was a table with a single chair, a folded blanket on the bed, and on the wall a drawing, pinned carefully with a rusted tack. Clara stepped closer. Her breath caught. It was her sister's drawing, of a dog, a German shepherd, with amber eyes, and a jagged scar along his left shoulder. Clara's eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. She pressed her hand against the drawing gently. The dog sat beside her, silent, and she knew. Her sister had been here, and maybe, just maybe, she still was. When Clara stepped back outside, the sun was higher now. The light turned the clearing gold and soft. The dog walked beside her as she stood by the cabin door. Her voice was quiet when she spoke. "I'll find her." The dog didn't bark, didn't move, but his tail brushed against her leg once, slow and steady, like an answer. That evening, Clara drew her own map, from the gate, through the woods, to the cabin. She taped it to her wall beside her bed, a reminder that some paths aren't marked with signs, some are marked with dogs, and with waiting. The next morning, Clara returned to the cabin, as soon as the village bell chimed. She walked faster now, her boots crunching through frost-covered leaves. Echo, because that's what she decided to call the dog, was already waiting at the gate, tail flicking once before he padded beside her through the woods. When they reached the cabin, Clara didn't hesitate. She stepped inside, flashlight in hand this time. Today she was going to search, really search, because her sister hadn't just been here, she'd left something. Clara could feel it. The cabin was quiet except for the soft creak of the floor beneath her boots. She moved carefully, running her hands along the walls, checking beneath the bed, inside drawers, nothing, until Echo pawed at one corner of the floor. Clara knelt beside him, her fingers traced along the wooden planks until she felt it. A gap, a loose board. Her heart thudded hard. She pried it up carefully. Dust floated in the beam of her flashlight, and beneath the board, a leather-bound journal. Clara's hands trembled as she lifted it free. The cover was cracked and worn, but the pages inside were dry. The first entry was written in careful looping handwriting she knew by heart. "If you're reading this, I'm okay. I had to leave but I wasn't gone." Not really. Clara swallowed hard. Her sister's voice felt close now, closer than it had in months. She sat down on the floor, Echo resting beside her, and kept reading. The journal wasn't long. A few pages describing quiet days, drawing, reading, waiting. "I knew someone would come. I knew Echo wouldn't leave until they did." Clara closed her eyes for a moment, her hand pressed flat against the page. She wasn't crying, not really. It just felt like breathing after holding it too long. When she stood again, the journal tucked safely into her backpack, she felt different, taller somehow, like part of her had grown. Outside, the sky stretched wide and pale blue. Echo walked beside her, slow and steady. Neither of them rushed. Some things take time, and some things are worth waiting for. That evening, Clara read the journal cover to cover twice before bed. Her grandmother sat quietly beside her, listening when Clara finally told her everything about the dog, the gate, the cabin. Her grandmother's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "Your sister always was brave." Clara nodded. "So is Echo." Her grandmother reached over, smoothing Clara's hair back gently. "So are you." The next morning, Clara woke before the first light touched her window. The journal rested on her desk, and beside it, the silver key tied to a thin leather cord. Today felt different, not like the end of a story, more like a promise kept. By the time she reached the gate, Echo was already there, sitting, waiting. But when the bell chimed at 6 a.m., something changed. Echo didn't stand. He turned his head toward Clara, tail sweeping once across the frosted grass. Clara knelt beside him, pressing her hand gently to his fur. "You can rest now," she whispered. Her voice didn't shake, and Echo, for the first time, closed his eyes. The villagers gathered that afternoon when they saw Clara walking back through the square with Echo by her side. She carried the journal in her hands, open to the first page. Her grandmother placed a small plaque on the gatepost that read, "For Mira and Echo, the ones who waited." Winter passed into spring, and still, every morning, Clara walked to the gate, not because she was waiting for something new, but because she wanted to remember. The bells still chimed at 6 a.m., one long note. Echo's tail would thump once, and Clara would smile, because some dogs don't just guard doors or homes. Some dogs guard stories, waiting until the right person listens.